So I wanted to go over the Carfax that I got for this vehicle. Early on in the process, I saw the vehicle was advertised on Carfax.com, and as I looked at the vehicle, they said, "Oh, hey, there's a free Carfax report, free of charge by Audi Brooklyn." So I took a look at this, downloaded this, took a look, and it did say there's damage reported, but there was no accidents, which was odd. So I'll get into this a little bit later. It's actually a pretty clean Carfax overall. Again, we got a little bit of damage reported. But look at all this. Total loss, no issues. Structural damage, no issues. Airbag deployment, no issues. Odometer check, no issues. Damage reported, okay, but what kind of damage? Um, no recalls. The warranty was expired, but even though there was damage, it was not salvage, it was not junk, it was not rebuilt, it was not in a fire, it was not in a flood, it didn't have hail, it was not a lemon. Okay, no issues with the odometer. The issues with the odometer, when it goes up over time, it goes up, but then it suddenly goes down. That's someone's rolled back the odometer. So we look at this. It was first purchased in 2007. It was a personal vehicle owned by one person for 18 years, right, in New York, and only driven 2,400 miles per year, right. The odometer is only less than 44,000 miles, right. So it looks like it was built in September 2006, and then on February 21st, 2007, it's sold, right? Title issues are updated, registration issued or renewed, first owner reported, personal vehicle. The person has taken a loan for this, and it's passed the safety inspection. And then about a month later, it says there's damage. Okay, but then 2 months later, it says the vehicle service, the rear door lock rod is replaced. And to me, this is the damage, right? Because it didn't say an accident, and I'm thinking this something was wrong, and this had was systemic that came out of the factory, and so they had to replace this. And because it was the first generation of this vehicle, they had to wait a few months to get the parts. And so the rest of this, um, again, it's pretty tame. There's not a whole lot going on in here. A lot of stuff with the authorities. It just registration, issued or renewed, and it passed the safety inspection, and it passed the emissions inspection. Right. Most of the service here is pretty straightforward here. That was things were just basically checked. There's not a lot of repairs going on. The air filter was checked. The brakes were checked. And you have sometimes you get the front brake pads replaced. Um, Oil and filter changed, right? Tires balanced and rotated. Pretty tame, actually. It's not like you had any major stuff going on. One thing that I did notice, in April 8th, 2010, the engine oil cooler lines were replaced, and that's good because this was actually a known issue and a recall with this generational Lexus. These could burst and leave your vehicle, without oil, and they could ruin your engine. The PCV valve was replaced. Again, past safety and emissions inspections. What goes on here? And so nothing really going on here. It's all pretty tame. Tires rotated, fluids checked. They weren't replaced; they were just checked. And then, July 10th, they changed the ignition coils and they changed the steering gear. Kind of wondering why they had to do that. And then again, nothing major going on here. Safety inspection, emissions inspection passed, right? Then in 2019, it failed the emissions inspection, but then 2 months later, it passed the emissions inspection. Let me go a little bit further. I think in 2024, again, it failed the emissions inspection, but then when did it pass it? Passed the emissions inspection in August. And same thing again, early 2025. They renewed the title. Now, April 2025, Audi Brooklyn has it. It's offering it for sale. But look at this. Just about a month later, they've taken the vehicle to Bay Ridge Lexus, which is odd because Audi Brooklyn has their own service department. And what are they doing? They're saying it's doing a maintenance inspection and it's getting it serviced, and the floor mats were checked. And I suspect there's a lot more going on there. What they were doing here was that they were doing the same thing I did with Corwin Toyota. They took the vehicle to Corwin. I took the vehicle to Corwin Toyota to see what's really going on with it. They took it to Bay Ridge Lexus to see, all the problems that were with the vehicle. And what they found was, of course, was I did, that the water pump was engine problems. You've got the water pump broken and leaking. You've got transmission problems. The transmission seal is leaking transmission fluid. There's suspension problems, major creaks with the vehicle, just getting in and out of the vehicle. Car's totally filthy. They mentioned the floor mats. So they need to be replaced. They're really not cleanable. And the vehicle had been in a collision and it needs body work, right? So they were getting the inspection to see what was involved, what's wrong with the vehicle, what's involved to repair it, how much is it to fix. So they knew that there was problems with it. I mean, of course, you knew there was problems with it just starting the engine and driving it. But they had it write down specifically what is wrong there. And so, I was actually told that because of all the issues, they're going to send the vehicle to auction. But they didn't tell me all those issues I just mentioned. Instead, they represented it to me as a good vehicle with no major issues. And they sold it to me at full retail price. And so to me, this is an example of the fraud, right? They knew everything that was wrong with it. And as we're doing the sales process, Mark Nipanishi, the sales rep, he's sending me paperwork. He sent me an email, and he calls me on the phone. And he says, "You got the Carfax, right?" And of course, I told him I'd already downloaded it, right? But I'm thinking that this is, something to think that, because he sent me a Carfax, that this absolves him of any responsibility of telling me any issues with the car. And I'm saying, no, you must disclose anything material that would influence my decision to buy the vehicle. So again, another example of fraud, on the part of Audi Brooklyn. So one thing that I was contemplating, if the Carfax was so good up until early 2025, why are there so many problems with the vehicle? And what I suspect is that the vehicle had been in an accident, and so they got a collision from the right front. This caused a lot of bodywork issues. I mean, you can see this. You can see, that the grill guard is scraping against the hood. And it not only caused, bodywork issues, it caused a lot of mechanical issues. So you got the engine problems, you got the water pump leaking and making noise on the left-hand side. You got transmission problems, you got the transmission seal leaking on the right-hand side. You got suspension problems underneath the vehicle, and you got bodywork to do as well. So my take is that rather than making an insurance claim, that the owner went to Audi Brooklyn, he bought another vehicle and he traded this in. And then Audi Brooklyn was wondering, what do we do with it when they saw how bad it was? Do we repair it? That's why they took it to Lexus. Do we send it to auction? But what they decided to do was sell it to me at full retail price and do the fraud that they did.